The owners of these items took a huge risk when they purchased them based on their beauty. But did their risk pay off? While refurbishing a Tudor house, this man and his father discovered a hidden gem within its layers. The Victorian fireplace and layers of wallpaper exposed an exquisite painting. They delved into the notion that the landscape was an 18th century invention.
It's a fair bet to assume that this is a real house, it's not a fantasy house. And this, I'm sure, is by an English painter, not a Dutch painter.
The painting reflected on the shifting trends in British art and architecture.
And this formality of gardens is something that comes from Europe, imposing an architectural statement on the landscape.
Considering the painting's placement, the appraiser discussed a fashion trend from back in the day.
One of the interesting things about the fashion of having your house painted was that they replaced portraits.
The painting's value is estimated at $10,000 to $15,000, leaving the guest speechless. This guest brought a treasured artwork inherited from her father. The piece was acquired in the early to mid-70s for $125. It's an exquisite woodcut titled Rain in the Mountains by American printmaker and painter Gustav Baumann.
He trained in Chicago and worked in Indiana. And it wasn't until about 1918 that he made his way down to New Mexico.
Baumann worked in Santa Fe, Mexico for over 5 decades.
And his imagery have become synonymous with the Southwest. He and the Southwest are so intertwined.
He printed 4 editions of the subject over a 30-year period.
The 4th edition is from an intended edition of 50. That's why it's numbered 19 of 50. And the RC next to that numbering means the blocks were recut, reshaped by him.
The family heirloom valued at $50,000.
Oh my God, that is so much more than I thought.
I think it was.
Oh, that is so much more than I thought.
An 18th century American oil painting was brought to the show by the guest. The painting depicted her 5th great-grand-uncle, Aaron Delano, who was believed to be the youngest sea captain in New England.
And that instrument is an octant, which means that it would do 1/8 of a circle. Okay. But they were used for navigational purposes.
It not only serves as a family heirloom, but also carries a touch of mystery.
When I was taking the picture down to bring it here, my husband was helping me. He was on the ladder, and all of a sudden the ladder slipped and went, oh, first thing he said was, oh, Aaron.
The painting highlighted its extraordinary appeal to collectors of Americana and folk art.
I think there's actually some film on the glass.
Oh, okay.
But most importantly, there's no loss in his face or in the instruments and the detail of the painting that I think really makes it valuable.
This portrait valued at $8,000 to $10,000.
Hey, that's good. It's exciting.
There were doubts about the authenticity of this watch that originally belonged to this man's late uncle. It turns out to be a significant Swiss Rolex, known as a red sub, introduced in 1966.
The word Submariner is written in red on the dial. It was introduced in 1966.
This model, dating around 1970, featured the first Cyclops crystal for magnifying the date.
It was the first model that had the triplock crown, which meant that the back gasket was waterproof, the crown was waterproof, and the crystal was waterproof.
The watch he thought was fake has an estimated value of
somewhere in the $6,000 to $8,000 range.
Oh, really?
This is the real deal.
That's great.
This captivating artwork unravels the intriguing history of its painter, Leonora Carrington. Carrington's early life and her personal struggles reflected in her art.
You mentioned she did go to Mexico, and that's where she did most of her work. Not until after the war she had her first showing down here. She signed Leonora Carrington in 1961.
Her personal life and artistic expression highlight the painting's significance.
Now, she painted in a variety of different mediums. This is a piece on canvas, and so it looks like it's primarily oil. Recently, her value has come up a bit because she has passed away.
The guest inherited the painting from his parents, who had an extensive collection of art.
And finally, when they downsized, they knew that it was the one piece of all their artwork that I really adored, and so they gave it to me. And that was about 40 years ago.
His parents bought it for around $7,000 to $10,000. Would it double in price?
Right now, I would expect an auction estimate of $200,000 to $300,000 these days.
They bought well. Amazing.
The guest shared the story of receiving a print from her boss, who inherited after his uncle passed away.
And it hung over our copy machine at work, and I admired it every day.
The print is titled County Politics by Thomas Hart Benton.
He was a prolific printmaker. He made several hundred lithographs.
The appraiser confirmed that it was indeed a lithograph.
The lithograph itself is based on a painting from the 1950s that Benton made.
The lithograph was noted to be one of Benton's last prints from 1973 before his death in 1975.
Benton was very much into the common man and the struggle of the worker in America.
The appraiser unveils both good and bad news to the guest.
At auction, this would bring between $5,000 and $8,000.
Oh, my.
Well, the bad news is, I think your boss might want it back. I hope he does it.
You could be right.
This guest brought to the show a mid-century modern dining room table, originally commissioned for a home built in 1953. The guest purchased the dining room table and a coffee table for $1,500. The piece was crafted by renowned designer William Haynes, also known as Billy Haynes. The demand for Billy Haynes furniture has risen, especially since the 90s, when his pieces gained attention in Hollywood.
Custom pieces made for Frank Sinatra, Joan Crawford. It's really, really hot, and it's getting hotter.
The production and design of this dining room table is simple yet alluring.
His pieces generally had that Hollywood glamour, and he was known for that Regency style from the 1940s.
The value of the table is estimated at $15,000 to $17,000, a remarkable return on the initial $1,500 payment the guest made 8 years ago. A fascinating story unfolds about these pottery pieces made by a ceramic artist in Mississippi, George Orr. The guest has a family connection to the Orr studio.
My grandfather worked in the Orr studio. My grandmother was friends with George Orr's son, Geo.
This rare jug, a wedding present for the guest grandparents, stands out, complete with other items.
And this is a photograph of George Orr's pottery. He called it his pot Or-E. Now, these are George Orr Bordello tokens.
Yes.
These seemingly ordinary pieces hold historical significance in George Orr's work. The appraiser estimated the value of this little jug at $2,500 to $3,500. Additionally, this still perfectly conditioned blue vase is valued between $15,000 and $20,000. And finally, this piece is valued between $15,000 and $20,000 despite the damage.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That surprises me.
This man's father acquired this unusual tortoise after winning it in a card game during World War II. It turns out to be a valuable Japanese artifact known as a Minnow Game, a mythical tortoise.
Occupies a position that more or less unites the relationships between heaven and earth.
This piece was created by one of the greatest Taisho period metal artists, Anoshomin. Crafted with intricate detail, the tortoise is made of solid silver, weighing over 100 ounces.
There's these barnacles that are attached, but I am almost certain that they're solid gold.
The artifact has a majestic design that would easily attract people.
That there's incredibly fine workmanship here.
The value of this artifact is between $20,000 to $30,000.
Ooh, that's quite a bit more than I thought it would be.
Are you someone who enjoys collecting hats? This story is sure to captivate you. This Beaver Hat was brought into the show with its original box.
Hats like this with their hat box are not often seen. What you've brought to me today is from the 1830s.
A rare blonde beaver pelt emanates luxury with its long nap.
As we see, it's paper. This is leather here. And in later hats, it is all leather-lined or silk-lined as well.
Unveiling moth damage along the rim and top tells a tale of generations wearing it.
There's been no special maintenance. Unfortunately, that hat has been worn by me when I was 8 and 9 and 10. Oh. And by generations of children.
The hat's preservation benefited from residing in the protective darkness of its hat box. How much would this hat be valued?
auction together, I would expect this to be in the range of $2,500 to $3,500. Indeed.
This guest brought to the show her collection of dolls given by her aunt, Dorothy Heiser, a prolific doll artist.
And she was born in Pennsylvania about 1881, I believe, in what I've read.
I think that's correct.
Each visit from the guest was met with a thoughtful gift, a doll crafted by his talented aunt. Despite the challenges faced by women artists during her time, Dorothy excelled in crafting lifelike dolls.
She was born in Pennsylvania about 1881. They're all sculpted in silk.
These dolls, now revealed in their original boxes, spoke volumes about Dorothy's artistry. The largest doll estimated retail value between $5,000 to $6,000. On the other hand, the smaller dolls valued around $2,000, while the doll with extra clothing was appraised at a range of $1,000 to $1,200. Beyond its aesthetic appeal, carried the weight of rarity and personal connection to a truly special artist. A cherished vintage teddy bear was brought to the show by the guest.
This bear, as you probably know, is actually made in Germany.
Oh, I know that, yes.
You do?
Yes.
And you know he's made by the firm of Steiff.
This cinnamon-colored teddy bear was one of the most collectible colors of all the bears.
Well, it's very rare for me to meet the owner of a 1909 bear. I feel very privileged.
This seemingly ordinary bear potentially valued at around 4,000 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope
yes,
him.
do. Yeah. He shakes his head, but he won't row anymore.
These rings were passed down from the guest mother. They're probably from two different periods. This 1970s gold band ring has rather gray centers, as it simply had single-cut diamonds.
When you get a diamond that's a single cut, the value of it is considerably lower than it is for the full brilliant cut.
But how much would its value be?
This 1970s gold band ring with straightforward single-cut stones, if I was selling this in auction, I might expect to get, I don't know, maybe around about £300 for it.
On the other hand, this brilliant cut diamond ring was from the same inherited collection.
It's a brilliant cut diamond that weighs around about 1.8 carats.
The intricate platinum and gold setting enhances the ring's beauty. A diamond is highly valued when it is white and flawless.
This one is quite severely flawed, so it's probably worth in auction around about maybe £1,400, £1,500.
Really?
Yeah.
Good heavens!
Sterling silver salver and apron was presented to the man's great-great-great-great-grandfather, the former chairman of the Royal Bank of Scotland.
Seeing it through its most difficult financial crisis, and in gratitude, the board of directors of the bank presented this to him.
These items were originally evaluated around 1980 for approximately $15,000.
Silver that the year before might have been $6 an ounce, overnight rose to $50 an ounce.
Crafted in Edinburgh in 1812, the silver set is adorned with hallmarks, aligning seamlessly with its historical context. The value of this family heirloom was...
If these came up at auction, I would expect them to sell together in the range of about $12,000 to $18,000.
This pendant watch brought in holds a fascinating story, originally belonging to the guest husband's grandmother. This piece of jewelry originally appraised in 1968.
What was the amount?
It was $1,250.
The piece features oriental pearls, signifying they are natural and not cultured.
Inside you have guilloche enamel, which means they do engraving on the metal, and then they put a translucent enamel on top of that. The engraving comes through and you get the color.
This piece of jewelry was crafted for Tiffany by the Patek Philippe Company.
And when you flip it over, it's upside down because you'd be wearing it
and looking at it.
The piece still preserved its integrity.
What I love about the jeweler who did it, he didn't remove the rings that were on the end. He left them intact, and he just ran a rivet through it.
How much would the value of this majestic pendant watch be?
So today at auction, this is easy $8,000 to $10,000.
Really?
And that's an auction price.
This woman has amazing taste in furniture. She jokingly requested her aunt for the chair prior to her aunt's passing. This chair turns out to be a George Nelson pretzel chair.
I can tell. The Herman Miller Company made this chair.
Really?
George Nelson started working for them in 1945 and worked for them until about 1972.
George Nelson was a lead designer for the Herman Miller Furniture Company.
In the 1930s, he kind of bummed around Europe writing articles on design, and he met Mies van der Rohe and some of the really big 20th century designers, and they turned him on to modern design.
This chair is a rare 20th century design from 1958.
Nelson himself probably did not design this chair. He had a fairly large staff that worked for him.
The chair's excellent condition added to its rarity.
But you've taken great care of this one. You and your aunt have taken great care of this one.
Well, thank you.
The value of this old chair ranged from $4,000 to $6,000.
I just feel justified. People have always said, oh, that's a great chair. And now I can say, yeah, it really is a great chair.
It really is a great chair.
Thank
it
you.
really is. Thank you very
so much.
What you see here is Marklin's toy boat. It was produced by Marklin, a German toy manufacturing company. The company first started out by making dollhouses and doll furniture in the early 80s. Later in the 90s, they started making trains and boats. This boat has an inscription that reads GM, Gabriel Marklin. This fascinating toy has a clockwork operating as the propeller attached to it. It is outfitted with a chain, and it's a replica of a live boat called the Puritan, a famous boat that traveled from Boston to New York City around 1889 to 1988. This historic toy is worth $20,000 at auction.
So don't put it in the water anymore.
I promise I won't. And it hasn't been in the water for over 50 years.
Next up is this beauty textbook written by Madam C.J. Walker, the first self-made African-American female millionaire and hairdresser. She started a company where she made a line of African-American hair products. The guest got the book from her friend.
A friend of mine, I'm a hairdresser, and he gave me the book.
The book is an early hair product, hair care, and hair styling textbook. It contains home remedies for hairstyling and care and is over 100 years old. It contains hairstyles and hair care products for African American women.
It indeed is the very first book published for hairstyling and fashion for African American women, which is very, very unusual.
Such an aged and valuable book at retail is worth $10,000.
Are you serious?
I am serious.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, I'm not.
$10,000.
Yes, ma'am.
This guest brought her mom's old bracelet.
I believe it was in the 40s, and she told me she paid $35 for it.
The bracelet is a product of William Spratling, a Mexican silversmith who was popularly known as the father of contemporary Mexican silver. He spent over 30 years creating beautiful pieces of art. The bracelet has the Mexican design and motifs.
And this is an early design. It has marks that date it from 1940 to 1948.
The spiral and sphere on it are typical Mexican motifs. The bracelet is also called the River of Life and is replicated in its wavy shape. For a piece bought for $35 at auction, it's now worth $2,000.
At an auction, I would give it an estimate of $1,000 to $2,000.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Do you have a family heirloom as old as 100 years old in your family? This has been in the owner's family for over 100 years. It's a Japanese piece from the Meiji era.
Everything about it is perfect. Even the sandals that he's wearing are perfectly detailed.
It has the samurai sword, the Japanese robe design, and the Japanese tiger with a popped eye.
And this is what we call decorated in enamels over a biscuit. This is not glazed, it's unglazed.
This beautiful and iconic piece is worth $2,000 to $3,000 at auction. The guest bought this jewelry and many others in a box for just $26, and they're items belonging to Clara Bow, a famous American actress from the silent film era. One of the items is a Cartier Harmington's purse watch, designed in Art Deco styles in enamel. The watch has Clara's name, an original Cartier registration number on the back. Part of the item is an anklet gift to Clara by her lover, Warren Burke. Clara's and her lover's initials were inscribed on the anklet. Text written to Clara on her 22nd birthday was attached to the watch.
Daniel Freeman to Clara Bow on her 22nd birthday, 29th of July, 1928.
All these and other items missing are worth $3,000 to $4,000.
The whole series.
Wow. Whoa.
I think it's really wonderful.
This piece of art is a lithograph titled Island Hay. It was made by Thomas H. Benton. He was known for so many lithographs and paintings showing ordinary people doing common things. The figure mimics the landscape and sky and creates a picture of man in nature. It's just one of Thomas's many works. There is a pen signature of Thomas beneath the art. How much will this beautiful regional art be worth at auction?
But something like this at auction today is worth around $2,000 to $3,000.
Oh, my word. Oh, my word.
Daughters of American Football Hall of Fame player Henry Jordan brought his championship rings to the show. Henry played defense for the Green Bay Packers, and the team won various championships, including Super Bowls I and II. The wives of the team players were also given championship bracelets to match the rings.
At auction, combined, this would bring $75,000
Really?
to $100,000.
Wow.
We think insurance value is between $150,000 to $200,000.
This beautiful glasswork was acquired for $125 by its owner. It's a titania vase produced by an Australian company, Johan Letts Vitvi, a glass collection company. The company produced various designs of glassworks with different color combinations. The vase is overlaid with silver. At auction, this piece could be worth $5,000.
Wow. That's terrific. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my $125 investment was good.
It was a very good investment.
A beautiful watch such as this must be a treasure for its owner. It's a Rolex Moonphase watch.
Well, I inherited it from my grandfather. He had worn it when I was a little child.
The glittering piece is made of stainless steel. It's a self-winding watch with the phase of the moon downward. It has a programmed calendar displaying the days and dates of the week. The Rolex crown logo is at its back, and unlike other Rolex watches, its serial number is at the bottom. It's such a rare piece, and one of the 1,000 pieces which were produced for 3 years between the years 1950 to 1953. How much do you think this unique watch is worth now?
Well, I thought maybe it might be worth a couple of $100, maybe $300 at the most.
Well, at auction, it's worth nothing less than $35,000 to $40,000.
That's a big surprise.
Next up is Diego Rivera's oil painting. Diego is a Mexican painter, known for his mural paintings. He made several fascinating paintings. He did this painting when he was 18 years old and named it El Baño. The beautiful work of art was done using oil canvas. The work earned Diego a medal and a grant when it was pitched during a student art competition in the early 90s. Diego's early signature can be seen at the bottom of the painting. It was acquired by the owner's grandparents and has been in the family for over 80 years. This original and historic piece is worth over $1.2 million in the retail market.
I'm really scared to carry it around at this point, you know.
The granddaughter of an Italian actress, Dolly Gray, came with a portrait of her that was made by Tade Stajka, a Polish painter argued to be one of the greatest portrait artists that has ever lived.
I just fell in love with this painting as soon as I saw it.
Dolly's painting is an oil-on-board canvas that was made in the mid-20th century.
I would feel very comfortable putting an auction estimate of $12,000 to $18,000 on the painting.
Okay.
Another interesting gem to look at is this old hymnal book. It's a collection of sacred hymns produced by the LDS Church.
My father's dad's mother was religious, and she evidently had this in her stuff, so it's basically been in the basement.
LDS stands for Latter-day Saints. They are one of the earliest churches in the United States, established in 1830. This LDS hymn book is one of the earliest hymnals. It's called the Bellow Falls. It's one of the few early hymn books to have musical notations and words. It's a rare piece and one of the few to be found around this century. The appraiser estimated it to be worth $40,000 to $50,000 at auction.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Here is a special sports jacket belonging to Johnny Unitas, the quarterback of a championship Baltimore Colts team. Johnny Unitas was an American pro football player, and this jacket was worn by him when his team clinched the championship title in overtime against the New York Giants in 1958. The iconic and special jacket has the patch showing the championship winning tag. For such a rare old jacket in good shape, it's estimated to be valued at $40,000 to $60,000 at auction.
And it's going to stay in the family.
This is a fine and iconic baseball from the World Series in 1919. The guest got it as a gift from his mother's friend and brought it in for appraisal. The baseball was used when the Cincinnati Reds played the Chicago White Sox. The baseball is an original piece signed by the 26-man team of the Cincinnati Reds. It has on it a signature of the team's manager, Pat Morin, and that of the team owners, August Herman. It also has the signature of Ed Roush and Jack Daubert. This is a great piece to possess, and at auction, it could value at...
I would put an auction estimate of between $45,000 and $50,000.
Phew. That's a little more than I thought. Glad I brought some excitement to you, because you brought some excitement to me. My wife almost sold it for $200.
Well, I'm glad she didn't.
We have a collection of Kennedy and Johnson signed photos. John Kennedy was a former president of the United States, and Johnson was his vice president who took over when Kennedy was assassinated. The guest, Cecil Stoughton, was a White House photographer.
I was in Dallas during the horrible assassination.
And the pictures he took have great memories attached to them. This was taken when Lyndon Johnson was taking his oath of office on a plane after Kennedy's assassination. This is Kennedy's family photo taken at Palm Beach on Christmas Day, and it was signed by Jacqueline and John. Johnson personally requested for this picture while sitting at his office desk, as he signed his swearing-in picture taken by the photographer earlier. This historic collection is estimated to be worth $75,000. Keep watching our videos for more entertaining videos about the Antiques Roadshow.